So, this video is an introduction to the gene keys. And for those of you who haven't heard of the gene keys, they're this incredible compilation of knowledge envisioned and written by a man named Richard Rudd. And to understand the gene keys requires tremendous patience and the ability to contemplate the words without trying to grasp them with the mind, but to allow them to absorb them. So in my own journey of understanding these gene keys, I thought communicating and sharing my own insights and knowledge gleaned from these gene keys through video. So, gene keys are based on the I Ching as well as their own genetic coding. We have 64 genes in our DNA. There's 64 hexagrams in the I Ching, as well as, without going into too much detail, in the Human Design System, there's 64 gates. So, what these gene keys do is help us unlock our highest potential through a cellular structure. He describes the DNA as this wormhole that the more it can open up, the more it can take in light, as well as produce light. So it pulls light in and it emanates light. And eventually what would happen is that the light becomes so much that it collapses this wormhole and it reveals to us in an embodied experience the oneness of our true nature. So, the role and the purpose of these 64 gene keys is to help illuminate the specific individual path each of us towards our own unfolding into our own divinity and genius. And this knowledge is very unique in that it's not about the information so much as not about knowing the information so much as what the information, the words do to your body and your mind. Because every cell in your body is listening and responding to the information in your environment, which doesn't just include who is in your environment, what kind of environment, what they're saying, what they're speaking. I mean, all that, everything you listen to, everyone you're around is being absorbed. But not only that, also your thoughts, your attitudes towards life is being absorbed by your cells. And so, important to recognize that you are not a victim to your DNA. You are not, just like you're not a victim to your astrology, if you follow astrology, you're not a victim to your circumstances. The only thing that you allow yourself to be a victim to is your own attitude. And so what these gene keys can help you do is uncover the shadow material, the collective fears that we carry, that we've carried genetically through our ancestry, collectively as humanity. It can help us unlock and see how these fears are covering up and obscuring our own gifts, our own genius, and this higher way of perceiving these things that seem like obstacles, that seem like insurmountable aspects of ourselves, fears that we feel like we can never overcome. And the way to do this is to first become aware of what our fears are. And each of us have our unique set of fears of shadow material, but they also individually tie back to the collective fears that we carry. So, to understand these gene keys helps to have the gene key book, but I also hope to guide you through each of them over time. And to understand these gene keys takes an ability to not perceive the information through the mind of critique, criticism, analyzing, judging what's right or wrong, but to allow yourself not to grasp information so much as to just absorb it. And the way to do that is through contemplation. And contemplation requires a tremendous amount of patience and relaxation. And as I'm reading about that practice, I already felt a lot of resistance come up in me, because I have this tendency to want to rush through everything, to get to the goal, to get to the knowing, so I can move on. I was trying to move on to the next thing, the next knowing, and this path is very different than that, and it's very alien to my nature, and hopefully it will help me unlock my own capacity to slow down and just be with what's arising, to be with the information, to be with the blocks and the fears, because you can't access the higher states of being, states of love, if you don't first become aware of your fears and your blocks. And I believe as humans have a tendency to try to run away from these fears and these blocks, sometimes to get to the love, enlightenment. And we can't bypass, we can't escape things we are afraid of. We can only become more conscious and aware of them and see the gifts that lie within them. And that's what the gene keys help us do. So, the beautiful thing is that these gene keys can help us not only individually unlock the higher frequency of our own DNA, but as doing so, align us with those who are ready as well to unlock their greater frequencies. Like, we become a conduit of, or a conduit of activation for everybody else. And but the tricky part is we have a lot. It can feel like we have a lot to overcome first. apparently the genetics, I don't know how to say that, geneticists believe that 90% of our DNA is junk DNA. And which is really just the collective memory patterns of our past. And this genetic material must all be purged before we can reach the highest states. The Siddhic states is what he calls it. And so there's 3 levels: the shadow, the gift, and the Siddhic. And the shadow is the fear and how it shows up. And it shows up in 2 different ways. It shows up depending on environment, conditions, temperament. Show up as repressed fear, where we try to push it down, the thing we're afraid of, or it tries to show up, or it shows up as a reactive fear, which often expresses itself through aggression or through anger. It's fear projected outward. And so, as you can see, most of humanity lives in these shadow realms in a state of fear, and the way that they're dealing with this fear is either through oppression or reaction. But the good news is that knowing our fears and becoming conscious and aware of them can lead us to tremendous gifts for ourselves and for humanity. And the beautiful thing is there can come a point in experiencing these gifts and transmuting this fear into higher and higher expressions of love and life force energy and awareness. Eventually, there comes a point where the DNA itself can transmute and literally change the DNA, change the cellular structure of a body, and we enter into a Siddhic state of being where we never fall back into the shadow. We stay up in the Siddhic. And that's what we generally call someone who's enlightened. But the beautiful thing is that the path to enlightenment or awareness or love is different for everybody. And in the gene keys, you see that there's 64 expressions of the Siddhic state, of this enlightened state. And they all represent unique fractals of this whole, of this oneness that we are. And so it's not like they're only a little bit of the whole, they are the whole, but the unique way of looking at the whole, unique color prism, like if you look at a crystal, unique prism of the whole. So these gene keys are about exploring ourselves by going inward, to not look at the world or look at what's wrong with the world, to look at what needs saving, who needs saving, who needs to know what we know. This is an inner exploration. And it's a journey of self-forgiveness, and self-acceptance. We will never get to where we want to get, desire to get, need to get to evolve, by rejecting ourselves, by rejecting an aspect of ourselves. This isn't what this is about. This isn't rejecting our lower nature to get to our higher nature. This is about using awareness and contemplation to unlock the gold in our fears and our shadows. So, as we delve into these gene keys, discover that these sankharas come up. Now, a few years ago, I did a 10-day silent meditation retreat called Vipassana. And in that, they describe sankharas as the old stuff that comes up. And usually it's after you have a enlightened state, an open state, as some kind of breakthrough. You feel the bliss, you feel the love, the ecstasy of being, the oneness of being. Everything feels perfect. A lot of times after that happens, a deeper and older, a more intense sankara comes up. You might feel it as a pain in your body. You might feel it as a thought in your mind, emotion. And these sankaras are wound all around our human DNA. And the only thing that can unwind them is light. And light is awareness. That's why sitting in meditation and using concentration in such a way was one way to unlock the sankaras. This is about unlocking them through awareness, but awareness by allowing the imagination and the mind to open up to these potentials, these beautiful ways of that we can be. And this is where we're heading, individually and collectively. The time of fear as a unique part of being human is over. The time of living in survival mode is over. We are here to embody these beautiful expressions of creation. But we have to first become aware of what's holding us back. And the Gene Keys is this beautiful, unique map for each of us to find the way through. So, I hope you guys found this introduction to the Gene Keys helpful. And I look forward to going on this journey with you. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. And I will be back again soon. Thank you.